Hey class, this is Heidi, and I just wanted to tell you a little bit about the Black Plague. Recently I had met a man. He was from Holland, and his family has lived in Holland since the 1200s. They have lived on the same piece of land. They only moved away once during that time, and that was in the 1300s. The reason they moved away during the 1300s for several years was because of a disease, which was, incidentally, the Black Plague. At the time, they had no idea what was causing this disease, and a lot of people thought it was like either divine judgment or, just bad luck. They really didn't know because there didn't seem to be any cause. It just seemed like people were randomly infected with it. So I want to read you a little description of the disease from the Decameron. It was written by Boccaccio in the year 1349, which would have been 2 years after the plague had come into Europe. This man wrote this. It was a part of his book. Anyway, so that would have been right after the plague came into Europe, and people were still trying to figure out what to do about it and how to help people with it. So I'm going to read this. I got it from worldhistory.com is where I pulled the excerpt from. He writes, "The first signs in men and women alike by means of swellings either in the groin or under the armpits," which would have been, the lymphatic system, "some of which grew to the size of an ordinary apple and others to the size of an egg, more or less, and the people called them buboes. And from that time, 2 parts of the body already mentioned, the deadly buboes began to spread indiscriminately over every other part of the body. Then, after this, the symptoms of the illness changed to black or livid spots appearing on the arms and thighs and on every part of the body. Sometimes there were large ones and other times a number of little ones scattered all around. And just as the buboes were originally, and still are, a very definite indication of impending death, in like manner these spots came to mean the same thing for whoever contracted them. Neither a doctor's advice nor the strength of medicine could do anything to cure this illness. On the contrary, either the nature of the illness was such that it afforded no cure, or else the doctors were so ignorant that they did not recognize its cause, and, as a result, could not prescribe the proper remedy. In fact, the number of doctors, other than the well-trained, was increased by a large number of men and women who had never had any medical training. At any rate, few of the sick were ever cured, and almost all died after the 3rd day of the appearance of the previously described symptoms, some sooner, others later, and most of them died without fever or any other side effects." So that was his basic thoughts about this disease, and according to History.com, the methods the doctors often prescribed were either bathing in rosemary water or burning aromatic herbs to help with this disease. Now, we now know that the disease was caused by a bacteria called Yersinia pestis with natural reservoirs in fleas, and that's according to science.com. And so, as many of you who are in microbiology will recall, you cannot get rid of bacteria by burning aromatic herbs. And you definitely can't get rid of the endospores that way. So this disease spread rapidly from person to person, and it became a full-blown pandemic. After it went from Europe, it continued spreading. So COVID is not the first pandemic that we've had, and thankfully COVID does not seem to be killing 2 out of 3 people. After the 1300s, pockets of the Black Death spread here and there, and there were still occasional pockets, even like throughout Europe, up until the 1500s when there was another huge outbreak. So today it's treatable by antibiotics, of course, and so the mortality rate is about 11%. So we do have a way of treating it. However, it's not common at all. So if you want something to be thankful for, we just came through Thanksgiving, you can be thankful that we don't have to deal with the Black Death and that instead we're only dealing with COVID, which is a lot less deadly. So anyway, I hope you all have enjoyed learning a little bit about this terrible disease.